thank you all for being here today. Mayor, thank you so much. Appreciate you and all of our elected officials, all of our members. Just a really quick ask. There is a QR code on your table. If you're not a member, we would surely love for you to become a member. Snap that QR code and you can become a member to help us continue to advocate for our great city. We want to continue to remain the #1 city in the country to live, work, and play. We've got a lot of work to do in advocating for our fair share of our dollars. And so I really would like for you all, if you're not a member, please join. We need your help. Thank you. It's my honor today to introduce the guest of honor. We all know today's guest from his many years of service with the Texas legislature, including Dean of the Texas Senate, where he demonstrated his support and leadership for transportation and mobility causes, including the I-45 Highway Improvement Plan. We're thrilled to have him closer to home and now in our midst today as we welcome to the stage the 63rd Mayor of Houston, Texas, the Honorable John Whitmire.
Mayor, you draw a crowd.
Somebody does.
Thank you so much for it. You are in a room full of friends and supporters, and we're excited about your vision for transportation. Transportation affects so much of our life. And so I want to jump right in. I want to kind of ask you a little bit about partnerships and mobility. You have a long career of bringing people together to get things done. And so as you take on the mayor's office in the last several months, what kind of partnerships do you want to strengthen, and how do you want to bring the region together?
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's a very appropriate question. But before we go into the mobility questions, I want to thank everyone for being here. About half of you are trying to get in to see me, so let me just tell you, this counts, okay? So enjoy it. The key to our success is going to be our ability to collaborate with all levels of government. And I don't know what y'all were doing Saturday morning, this past Saturday at 8 o'clock, but I was with the Highway Commissioner, Steve Alvis. 8 o'clock. For 2 hours, we drove the roads of Houston and our freeways, talking about how TxDOT could further Houston's mobility. We've been discovered. We all know that. So we've got to prepare for it, protect our mobility, give folks options, have a good transit system that is reliable, safe, and on time. But we've also got to find resources, and we're going to do well there too. I have a working relationship as we talk with the leadership in Austin. Don Buckingham, who had no relationship with the city of Houston previous administration. In fact, it was very antagonistic with George P. was there. She was at city council the other day, reaching out, giving us further HUD resources, more time to meet the requirements. Johnny Mata, a longtime civic leader, was there at a press conference, said it was historic that a statewide Republican official would be at Houston City Hall based on recent history. And I could go on and on. Let me talk about local government. There's 3 county commissioners that have met with me and given already resources. Briones is going to do a multipurpose center in Memorial Park, a combination of city and county resources. Tom Ramsey's told me that he will pay half of the cost of improving transportation, roads, sidewalks in his precinct. And of course, Adrian and I are longtime friends and are collaborating. So there's a lot to be excited about today in terms of infrastructure and mobility. And my mission today is to get you to leave here as fired up as I am. About half of you, I'd like to thank for shaping and molding my career, giving me this opportunity. And I've been very busy. Infrastructure has been one of our highest priorities. Metro, so important. One of the best appointments I've made. And Elizabeth Brock is going to bring the future. Her board, the county appointments, Ms. Mueller. I could go on and on. The neat thing about my being in office is the relationships that go back over 50 years. And many of you, I saw Jack Drake walk up. Do you know how many people that are sitting here today that I've worked with successfully on their projects? And let me thank TAG. Where would we be without TAG today? We wouldn't be gathered like this to brainstorm and plan Houston's future. So let's give TAG a shout out. They would regularly come to my Senate office. I was a member of finance. I would carry their water. So everybody needs to be fired up about our community. We have a great city, great region. Judge Keogh and I've met. Mayor Zimmerman, and you'll never believe where I was Monday morning. Yale Street Pharmacy, meeting with the mayor of Morgan's Point, Deer Point, and Baytown. People are fired up. The openness, the transparency. I will tell you our problems. Yes, a lot of it's financial. And quite frankly, not only is it financial, because of years of neglect and kicking the can down the road, I'm going to paint a picture. I did it with the budget yesterday. And God bless the Chronicle, but they can't get anything right. We did not cut public works or planning. And we didn't say we weren't going to raise taxes this next year. We said we were going to review the departments for their efficiencies, their duplication. We're going to reach out to the collaboration with the county, the state, and the feds. Then we might, when I can in good conscience, in a record of showing we're doing it right, we've removed conflicts of interest, the duplication and the waste, after I've done everything to get the city in the best order it can be, then I'll go to the citizens and paint them an accurate picture. And that's where I'm going to need everyone in here. People come up to me in restaurants in the evening. Don't tell my security I go without them. But that's how I stay in touch with Houstonians. And they come up and they say, we're excited. What can we do to help you? And I tell them, I'm not in a campaign, so I don't need campaign support. But I need your support when I come out with bold proposals. I need your prayers. I need your moral support. And that's what I need from everyone in this room. We have a great region, great city, great people. And quite frankly, as I was speaking this morning, we were doing preparation for our storms this summer with a very diverse group of local civic and officials. I have discovered in my 5 months, and you got to understand, I grew up in Houston. I've gone down our streets and roads. I can remember when there wasn't a 610. What I've learned is the greatness of our city is obviously our people. That's a given. Just look in this room. But it's our institutions. It's our academic. It's our faith. It's our business partners. We're doing so great and recognized worldwide for our accomplishments, our med center, our port, our spaceport. I could go on and on. But I've learned it's also, if we can get city government at the level of performance that we deserve, there's no limitation to Houston's growth, our mobility, and the ability to improve quality of life. That's the only reason I ran for office. I've had a great political career. If I hadn't been called by Houstonians to consider and then asked to run, I'd be in Austin. I enjoy being a senator. Quite frankly, they probably need me over there.
We need you here.
After this election cycle. But I had to judge where could I be the most effective. I love Houston. I love the Senate, but I love Houston more. So I'm fired up. Thanks for the short answer I was able to give you.
You and I have done this before.
But I want everybody to leave here fired up. I'm going to do bold things for infrastructure. We're not going to continue a pay-as-you-go, which is not the way we're going to play catch-up. We've got to have additional resources. We're going to get resources from other levels of government. And yes, we're going to collaborate with Metro. Don't worry, we're going to spend money. I understand some of you are not Democrat or Republicans. I had an engineer tell me he belongs to the infrastructure party. Well, put me down. This will be a better city when we all work together. The Metro groundbreaking of Westheimer the other day, $12 million. So let me give you another example of the infrastructure commitment I had. I was shown the intersection of Houston Avenue in Washington the first night I was in office. I rode with the police, and they said, this is dangerous. The previous planning department and public works dropped chunks of concrete right there at Washington by municipal court. Trinity Episcopal's been there 100 years. They couldn't turn out of their parking lot. Knapp Chevrolet couldn't turn into their service center. Fire trucks from High Station 6 on Washington could not turn right to get up on 45 to go south. So I talked to Public Works. We came up with a plan. The poorly designed anti-car activists that had been in previous administration spent $100,000 dropping the concrete. I wish you had pictures of before and after. Drive by there today. We have spent $1.2 million to do it correctly. They didn't do the foundation. When we started taking the concrete away, there's a gas line that was 6 inches underneath the surface instead of 6 feet. We're doing things right. We're going to spend our resources wisely, and we're going to ensure and increase mobility. We want people to have options. Yes, I'm sensitive to bike riders, of course, but we're not going to sacrifice recreational activities. We're not going to sacrifice our general mobility for recreation. We'll work together. I'm going to bring people together. Someone said, Whitmire, you've got to run for mayor because you can bring our community together. And that's not only what I plan to do, it's evidence in my team that I brought together, the legislators, Armando, Carol, we're going to get things done.
Just to build on what you were just talking about, that comes in the context of different road users. I think that's what you were talking about, right? Like just literally talking to the churches, talking to the faith group, thinking of pedestrian, thinking of bike riders. The whole discussion on Vision Zero, right? Where, from a policy standpoint, where do you, I think you were getting to it, right? Like in terms of what you're talking about. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've been in office 5 months, and I wish I had the time to tell you about the things that you really can't plan for. The January freeze, Lakewood tragic shooting, the Kingwood floods 2 weekends ago, and you talk about collaboration. We've got to realize we have to work our issues from a regional perspective. I was on the phone talking to Judge Keogh, Conroe, San Jacinto River Authority, urging them not to release any more water out of Lake Conroe than was necessary. They were under pressure because they were flooding around the lake. Their dam was in danger of being compromised. We were talking to people as far north as Limestone County, Montgomery County. And when we weren't getting the results we were looking for, I called Sam Kidd, NIM Kidd, in the governor's office. Things started happening. So probably not any time in recent history do we have an administration that has the contacts to protect our community and get additional resources. I work across the aisles, not only on local issues, but certainly working with the region. And that's going to pay great dividends for Houston and Harris County. We've got to realize flooding, public safety, mobility are not limited. You know what a number I would challenge somebody, Bobby and I were talking a moment ago. Do you know how many people drive into Houston each day? Not Houstonians, they're our friends in the suburbs or other communities. So, you know, we're 2.3. We grow every day by another third. There's 715,000 people drove to Houston today. And you think that we don't have to get ready? I drove to Chapel Hills last Saturday. Don't tell my security that either. But if you go from here to Waller, everywhere you look, Greg, everywhere in the prairie of Waller County is housing development. They're headed this way. So we've got to get prepared. We've got to get our infrastructure in place. We've got to deal with our education systems. And it's not just mobility, it's our water system. I regularly talk to my team. What is it that we're most concerned about? What would shut down this city? I referenced Jackson, Mississippi. Their water system failed them last year, and they went months without the use of their water system. Nobody talks about the condition of our water treatment plants and our water systems. The Eastside Water Plant is being held together with baling wire and tape, and that's not an exaggeration. We have to have bold proposals to ask Houstonians to help pay for the infrastructure and use, you know, Austin's got a surplus right now. I've approached the leadership, the lieutenant governor, people that I have a working relationship with. We do a great job for rural Texas. We have the best farm-to-market road in the nation. We help them with their brush control, their water supply. We need an urban initiative, and that's where you can play a role. Most of you have government relations departments. You have working relationships with different levels of government. We need an urban initiative. So I'm going to work with a former colleague, Kirk Watson out of Austin, Eric Johnson in Dallas. We're going to go to Austin in January and give them a proposal to help us with our infrastructure. They can also help us with our social services. There's no reason the state shouldn't address homelessness. About a third of the homeless are coming out of the criminal justice system, released from Huntsville with nowhere to go, released from the county jail at midnight because they get credit for the next day. You know, we want businesses to come to Houston. You ought to ride with me at 10 o'clock 2 days ago down Pierce, above the Pierce elevated. People passed out on the sidewalk in the middle of the day. Now, that's not an infrastructure issue, but you better be concerned about it because that's why we're losing businesses to Dallas, Austin, even Fort Bend. It's quality of life issues. Bob Lanier understood that, and I hope each of you understand the influence that he had on me as a young state senator. He wanted people to not only work in Houston, but live in Houston. And we're talking about your employees. We're talking about the residents of Houston. So I'm fired up. I need your support. I need your employees. When I roll out bold initiatives, realize I've studied them. I've surrounded myself with some of the smartest and best people we have in our community. And many of you in this room, I was joking when I said this counts as a meeting. I kind of meant it.
I know you did. I know you meant it.
But y'all know how to get a hold of me. We got a great team.
And you know, the reason why I say that, your schedule is packed. You are everywhere. You are back to back to back. And I don't think people realize that Houston's not just the fourth largest city, the biggest city in Texas, but it's the hub, right? So you are, in a sense, a lot of times a regional leader, not just for Houston. And I see that your schedule. As you we just gone through this great flooding that happened up north in the Kingwood area, and you spent a lot of time out there. I know you spent time with first responders there too. As we prepare for this hurricane season, what have you learned in that will be helpful to us and to you as we look ahead?
Well, at 9 o'clock at the Chase Bank on South Main, Angela Blanchard, one of our real heroes at the Ripley Baker Institute, has been shepherding my plans for the storm all spring. My staff has been meeting with the county judge's staff. We're meeting with the governor's staff. But we had our round table this morning, 35 individuals. First speaker was Ed Emmett. Quite frankly, I told Ed we miss him, but that's another story. Because he has so much knowledge of getting through a storm, and he started out speaking. Bob Harvey was there. I said, I understand you retired, but now you're back. We're attracting people that care about our region. So we're prepared for the storm. We have no control where the Lord sends it, nature, but our first responders are ready. We're doing everything humanly possible based on our contacts, the history of the storms, and certainly we're dealing with drainage. From traveling across Houston and being a Houstonian, about a third of our drainage problem is from lack of maintenance. Illegal dumping. You can't imagine the blockage of our drainage because we haven't maintained our sanitation, and there's illegal dumping. So, I understand this is about Infrastructure Day, but I am doing my job to paint an accurate picture of how great this city is and the opportunity we have if we come together. And we celebrate our diversity, but there are certain projects we need to be Houstonians. Public safety is not restricted to one community. Flooding, transportation, reliable bus lines, an airport. Jim is doing a good job. Sign a check. I am proud of my appointments. They're diverse, they're experienced, and they're can-do people. And this room is full of can-do people. So, like I said, my mission today is for you to leave here as fired up as I am. I am going to leave here a better mayor than the mayor that got here because of the energy in this room. There is a lot of firepower in this room. If we would all work together and realize there's plenty of opportunity for people to be in business, your employees, we've got to care for them. If we'll all work together, Houston's greatest days are in front of us.
Yeah. You mentioned Jim. We had an event for Jim, and he's a great appointment, and a lot of stuff is happening at the airport. We mentioned earlier Elizabeth Brock. Somebody will tell us what this means, or your security will do. You mentioned Elizabeth Brock, and you had a round of applause. I think it's a great announcement.
I got somebody said fired up, literally. No.
We'll try to ignore it till somebody tells us from the back. So talk a little bit about what kind of conversations you've had, Elizabeth, about Metro, the future of Metro, future of BRTs. Like, where's that headed?
Well, obviously, I've worked with Elizabeth for years in my office. I knew of her ability, her people skills, but her also ability to lead. So we want a Metro that is responsive. Let me just tell you, there's not a thing I'm saying today that I didn't say during my campaign. In the campaign, we spoke about Metro listening to residents. And that's what will be the guiding principle for Metro or my administration. Listen to the residents. Residents want a Metro.
So just a quick thing, Mayor. I just had somebody kind of point to me saying that that's just it's nothing to worry about. They've got it handled. But we'll probably hear this stuff for a little bit. So we're going to try to ignore it. Apologies for that. I don't know exactly what's going on, but
I want Metro.
But you can't say fired up anymore, because every time you say fired up, this causes this thing. So we're gonna have to not go there.
obviously, if you look at the people I appointed to Metro from the city, it's diverse. Pastor Preston, representing parishioners that need to come to church. I think we're going to use more technology, micro transit. We want a transit system that responds to the public needs. And that's almost every department at the city. So we're going to go forward, being smart, quit wasting money. You know, there's on the table right now at Metro, there's been $30 million painting red buds lanes downtown. I don't know which one of y'all want that contract, but most of the people I talk to would like to take the red lanes and put them into bus shelters, making it more reliable, safer to catch the bus. And we're just going to make smart decisions. And I'm not running it. I've got a very capable board, and we'll listen to you. You've got experience. I could start naming the folks that have done work with Metro, previous leadership. But I hope y'all don't think I got in office just to rubber stamp what the previous administration did. We've asked for a pause on most projects to review things like the Houston Avenue, Washington project. We'll make them larger, better, but we're going to be responsive to the public.
Have you thought a little bit more about like the BRTs? Is there a vision you have of the direction that you want that to go to?
The BRTs has done more to tarnish Metro's credibility and name brand. Right outside the front door. It was probably about the third critical things that people talk to me about across Houston. They know that the Post Oak line is not effective. Metro just 2 weeks ago wanted to take the pickup of the Post Oak line from 12 minutes, every 12 minutes to every 20 minutes, and all hell broke loose. But if you listen to Metro leadership, it should be once an hour. You've got to be smart. I understand it's the first leg of greater things to come. But, folks, back to that pause of assuring the public that we're doing things right, cost-effective, not wasteful, and moving people. And we've got to start doing projects that people will use. And that ought to be across our region. Have projects that people will use, because when you build something and people don't come, it hurts your ability to do the next project. So yes, we're going to be smart. Mobility is our #1 priority. And if we work together, we'll get it done. And we've got to be able to document to the other levels of government how effective we are.
As you, this is a police week. Christina was mentioning about her husband flying back to see you at the police week.
I heard that.
He was coming back from the police week in D.C. Talk to us about, you just had the sirens happen. It's a reminder to all of us about first responders, right? As soon as you hear the sirens, regardless of who you are, your heart beats a little bit faster. You get concerned about that stuff. You campaign on that issue. You've got a long history of it. I know that we're at, like you said, we're in infrastructure, but it's a big part of your administration. You just had a new police chief that you've appointed. Right? Talk to us a little bit about where do you see public safety headed in Houston and in this region?
I'm glad you asked that, because if we do not fix public safety, nothing else matters. I truly believe that. The public understands that. I think some of the numbers of the crime indicators going down have been manipulated. There's a lot of unreported crime. Response is at an all-time high in HPD. We have large immigrant communities, large undocumented communities that do not report crime because, if your husband's abusing you, domestic violence, but you're concerned about your immigration status, you don't call. So that just feeds the crime wave. Public safety is my #1 concern. We have fewer police officers today than we had 25 years ago. We've got to get back to that bold proposals. We're going to increase public safety, one, through collaboration. We have 87 police agencies in Houston. They don't talk to each other, but Chief Satterwhite, Acting Chief Satterwhite's been leading a group since January to come together to share resources. Let's talk about the fire. You know, I don't have time for politics and show boating, as some in recent days have shown. The firemen have not had a contract in 8 years. I spoke to their last cadet class 2 months ago. Anybody want to guess how many young men and women graduate from the fire academy? It used to be one of the more attractive jobs in our community. Fathers and brothers recommended to their family members, be a Houston firefighter. I spoke to 31 cadets 2 months ago. It would scare you to death if I showed you a computer printout of what few ambulances we have on the street right now. They're making runs from Richmond and 59 to Kingwood. That's not the way great cities operate. You might say, well, that doesn't really concern me. It sure does when you have a health issue or you need a rescue like the people in Kingwood did. The conditions that I made an issue of this week in Kingwood, see, Kingwood had a volunteer fire department when they were annexed. So what did they didn't have dormitories. So what's the great city of Houston do? Put out a trailer out beside the fire bays. They're sleeping on the floors. They got holes in the floor, plywood on the floor. Now let me tell you where experience matters. And we need a fire station at Gessner and I-10, the old worn-out one right there. We put an overlay the other day of who has TERS, where those fire stations are located. Memorial City is going to build a new fire station. And I can go on and on where the TERS, talking about resources and infrastructure. The Montrose Library, the city of Houston was going to move out of that iconic building that belongs to St. Thomas and go to a commercial site down on Westheimer. And I never had a visual of it. What do you mean you're going to move a beautiful old 100-year-old building that people use, it's the 14th most used library, to a second and third floor? It's behind the hamburger joint that's on Montrose. So now you go in California Street, 1001 California. I dare you to drive by there. It's a block away from some of the largest adult entertainment establishments. You're not going to get families to leave the Montrose Community Library and go to a second and third floor commercial building. The city got 23 parking spaces from that developer. It was a deal. Just call it what it is. So what are we doing? The Montrose TERS is going to redo the old library. So then you say, well, what do you do with the building? What do you do with the building that the city's already committed to put a library in? It's a commercial condo. We're talking to Legacy Health. They're a block away. They always need more space. They're looking at it as a drive-through pharmacy. Folks, leadership and experience matters. And if we all pull together, things are going to get so much better. But public safety includes fire, includes EMS. Oh, let me touch on some of the frustration. So, I didn't finish the 31 cadets. You know, number two, I spoke to 76 HPD cadets. It's the second largest in recent history. But back to the fire package. We couldn't attract people because they didn't know what their benefits were going to be. They sleep on the floor. The current firefighters are not recommending that their family members join. So the Houston Partnership and others said to play catch up and to do the back pay would probably be $800 to over $1 billion. Through tough negotiations and relationships, it topped out at $650 with our proposal. Now just do the math. If you're playing 8 years of catch up, of pay raises and benefits, and then you factor in the next 5 years with a new contract, that's a big number. And it would be the big number if you did HPD or Public Works. What did you need to spend in the last 8 years in Public Works and 5 years forward? So, unfortunately, some officials want a demagogue campaign increase their name ID by trying to make the firefighters' arrangement something that is not physically responsible. I don't have time for that. There's a time for campaigning, there's a time for politics, but right now is the time to work. So we're going to have a safe city. We're going to get the resources to the fire department that we need. And we're going to get through the HPD challenge right now. Tough call that I had to make a couple of weeks ago. But my responsibility is the Houstonians. We cannot have drip, drip, and keeping our police department on the front page. We needed to move on. Troy Finner is an outstanding public servant, has done an outstanding job as police chief. And he and I discussed the status and how we go forward. We're committed to making this city safe. It's my highest priority. I've been robbed at gunpoint. You probably heard during the campaign. I know what it's like to beg for your life with your daughter and wife standing to your side. I don't want anybody to go through that. And we've got to focus on county government as well. We got some district judges that are working hard. We got some district judges that are still operating under Zoom. You talk to the defense attorneys, they love it. Delay, delay. There are 1,900 people in Harris County waiting to go to court for murder or capital murder. 1,900 are charged with murder or capital murder, have not been to court yet, Steve. Holding people accountable or finding them innocent. Now here's the frightening part that I'm going to continue to speak out of. Of the 1,900, 900 of them are on the streets of Houston. Repeat violent offenders. It's unheard of for people to be charged with capital murder and get a bond. That's the most dangerous population there is. But there's 900 this morning on the streets of Houston charged with murder or capital murder. They're either out on bond or they're fugitives, and we don't know where they are. That's the repeat violent offenders that you see on the evening news. And we're going to address that, and I'm going to speak out to county district judges that are not holding people accountable. That will attract businesses, that will attract quality of life, and everything we address. Infrastructure, mobility, flooding are critical issues. But if we don't feel safe, people's cars are broken into, they don't even report it anymore. My house was broken into 6 years ago. The alarm, they came in, kicked in the back door. They were in my house 8 minutes with the alarm and the strobe lights going full speed. They're not worried. The bad guys know we're understaffed, and we've got to deal with the morale. But let me tell you the good news. Police officers are working hard under my administration. Much more improved morale. And the firefighters, they are saying, thank the Lord that someone recognizes what they went through in Kingwood, risking their lives, and then coming back to a rundown facility. And then I had other public officials criticizing their benefit package on a Monday after they put their lives at risk over the weekend. Listen, folks, this is serious business, and the public's depending on us. And the only reason I ran is to make a difference. And that's what we're going to continue doing.
I want to cover two quick things. One, as people hear you speak, right, they always get the clear sense that you are in the weeds. You're not somebody who doesn't go to the location, show up, talk to people in the field, ask tough questions, right? And you make your decisions from that experience. You're good at kind of...
You're saying in the weeds or not in the weeds?
No, you're in the weeds.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're in the... I mean, like, we just went through a discussion. You're talking about mantras, going up the steps. Like, you're in the weeds.
I stay
like, you're
in the
not...
weeds.
Yeah, I think you're known for that, right? And as kind of leading the city, 22,000 employees, you know, on the weekend when you were at Kingwood, you pick up stuff as to how things should be done, and you're talking to frontline people. I mean, you talk to your directors, you talk to leadership, but you also talk to frontline people. As you talked a lot during the campaign around permitting, right? Permitting was a big issue. A lot of people came up to you. A lot of people talked about with you. And so you've been working on this for the last several months on permitting. What have you learned, and what are the kinds of changes you want to make? Is this, you know...
I've learned how important city employees are and how overworked and underpaid most of them are. You know, one of the greatest pleasures I have, I come in through the basement, and there'll be a housekeeping worker, and I'll stop and speak to her. They've never had an experience like that. And I go over to Public Works. I go, you know where I'm going to be at 6:30 in the morning? Post Oak Sanitation headquarters. Not their headquarters, their working garages. I love people. I've been a public servant my entire life since I was 22. 10 in the House, 40 in the Senate. I had to weigh where I could be most effective and impact people's lives. So, yes, I'm in the weeds. That's where I come from. Went to Waltrip High School. I'm blessed to have grown up in Houston. The community college for 2 years. I didn't have the money to go off to UT or A&M. Probably couldn't have gotten in because of test scores.
Got a little fun there, too.
No, I'm serious as a heart attack. Community college, U of H. So I represent Houstonians that need the ability to depend on first responders, public works. What I've learned at City is
On the permitting. Why don't you talk about the permitting part?
permitting is improved. We're quantifying the turnaround, and it was probably in the top 3. We got a new permitting director. We got a new public works director. Things are getting better on that front. And, you know, it's a shame that you have to hire agents to help you get a permit. You know, there's a whole industry to walk people through the permitting process. I used to complain as a senator about TABC. You know, why do you make your application for a permit so complicated? Well, it's an industry. But back to permitting, it's improving. I've been there 5 months. Things didn't get as broken as they are overnight. I inherited some messes. I look forward to going to work every day. We've got a great team. We're still building on it. But permitting, the delay of the legal department, after you get awarded a contract, one of the concerns was, why does it take a year before we can get started? Inflation's eating up all of our profits. So I talk to people, not only the weeds, but city employees. They're so important, and they've really not been taken care of in years.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of not everybody in the room, but for the city of Houston, for being in the weeds, for knowing the details, right? Yeah. For showing up and taking the time for, you know, not a lot of people know. You got to get up, you got to be there at 6:30 in the morning, right? And I bet you got a late event that doesn't end until 10 o'clock at night. So you are doing the work, and we appreciate it. So please.
I could be at 100 places right now. This is where I want to be. This is where I need to be. I'm going to be going back shortly to work on next week's agenda. If the Lord's willing and the rain doesn't get in the way, I'm going to be at a grandson's Little League game at 7:30. So my only challenge is to pace myself and realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that's where y'all play a major role. But I'm fired up. In fact, after this,
Hey, we're talking about this fired up stuff. We're not doing the fired up stuff. We got to get our card from the valet, all right?
Marty, we got some firefighters in the room, first responders. But I will be here as often as you need to hear from me. I'll give you a progress report. We've only been there 5 months. We have a great city, great people, and we just have some challenges that most major cities have. Yeah. But we're going to address public safety, infrastructure, quality of life issues. It's already working. Sanitation, working 18 hours a day, 6 days. Why am I going in the morning? To thank these men and women. I pulled into my driveway 2 weeks ago, and my neighbors all ran over and high-fived me because the recycling and the garbage had been picked up in the same day. First time in years. And that is not costing us more. It's because the workers know I care. Yeah. And it's amazing when people's jobs on the line, how much harder they work.
Well, Mayor, I want to thank you for your leadership, for being here, for pushing as hard as you have. I know you say it's a marathon. I know people tell you that, but you're running it like a sprint, and we want you to. So on behalf of everybody, thank you very much. Please give our mayor a warm round of applause.